And I think we are finally live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. Apologies for the delay. We are still waiting for our third panelist, who is, as you can imagine, very busy. It's been a very busy day for journalists across the country as the British and Irish Lions squad was finally announced today. Warren Gatland actually choosing to make it a 37-man squad, not a 36-man squad, which was sort of the first of the many changes that we saw throughout the day. So, yeah, basically for the next hour, we're pretty much just going to chat about the squad selections, how we think the selections that Gatland made are going to sort of influence the selection policy and what sort of we can expect. Some of the players that were unlucky to miss out, some of the players who were maybe lucky to be included, the makeup of the side with quite a few Scottish players in, which is quite interesting. So just chatting everything about the squad for about the next hour. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. Let me know what you thought of the squad. And yeah, so I'm joined, first of all, by Shaun Goosen, who is joining me from Durban, South Africa, and we are waiting for our Irish counterpart, who is probably cycling back in the middle of somewhere in Ireland. I don't even know where he's based these days. So before we sort of go too deeply without the other Stephen, Shaun, what was your sort of first reaction when the squad was announced?
Hello, Steve. Yeah, thanks again for having me on. I would say just a lot of surprise selections. I think reading a lot of the reaction on social media and various news outlets, everybody comes up with their Lions squad and everyone has their own opinions and ideas. But this was, nobody really could have predicted this. Nobody came close. There were some names that you really wouldn't have expected to see there at all. Me personally, the likes of Johnny Hill, over maybe a guy like James Ryan.
Yeah, that's the big one that's causing a lot of chats.
Yeah, so some odd names there, but I think Gatland, I don't think he gets enough credit. I think people forget that before the semi-final in 2019, he'd beaten the Boks 4 times in a row with Wales. So you've got to back him and just wait and see what he's got planned.
Yeah, I think what's quite interesting was the fact that we've been predicting squads and trying to guess what was going to be announced and all putting our own 15 stuff together. And as you said, I think the biggest thing about today was the fact that no one could have actually predicted just how strange of a squad it was. It's a massive selection. Something like Sam Simmons is not even playing for England, hasn't played for England in 3 years, but he's going to be on the plane to South Africa, and a lot of big players missing. So I think that's quite nice. I think it's actually quite nice to add a couple of surprise players. I think that Rasmus has been somebody like that. He's not been afraid to call out somebody who's maybe not particularly orthodox, and we saw how you reap the rewards in the likes of a Pimpy or Ches and Colby, or somebody that you might not have immediately thought was going to make such a big impact. So I'm hoping that that's going to add a little bit of, maybe just a bit of flair, maybe just something different. Maybe it's something that's not expected. We can all pick, the 15 best players in the sort of from the Six Nations, but I think it was also quite a difficult task in terms of weighing up this Six Nations versus what we saw last year, and that's always the problem, because always trying to sort of please every fan base, your Irish fans, your Scottish fans, stuff like that. And we had, England, who had been so dominant for so many years, having a terrible Six Nations, Wales suddenly winning it again, Scotland having a terrific Six Nations, which is all very different from last year. So, what do you make of the makeup of the squad in terms of, I think it's majority England, then Wales, and then you've got Ireland and Scotland who are much of a muchness. But I think it's like 7 Scottish players or something like that, which is more than I think they're pretty much. Definitely the tours that I've seen in my lifetime, a lot more Scottish players than I've seen.
Absolutely. I agree with you. You talk about the Six Nations this season. It was a funny old Six Nations. I've never seen anything like it, with England out of sorts, like you say, Scotland on the rise, winning in Paris and London for the first time since, I don't know what it was, like decades,
Yeah.
And Ireland, obviously, still under Farrell there, working on a new plan, and Wales coming out on top. Just with regards to the makeup, it's obviously tough picking some of those English players, those Saracens players, because they are in the championship, and they haven't been playing well. I mean, a lot of people didn't think Jamie George was going to get picked, and he made the cut. I know Cowan Dickey is also there, but yeah, no, it's a strange one. Farrell is there. He was in for a shot at captaining the side, apparently, as was Atoje. Yeah, look, I'm just waiting to see. I mean, we can say whatever we like now. People can say what they want, but it's going to come down to those midweek matches. First of all, not picking up injuries between now and the midweek games, and then from the midweek to the Test series. So plenty of opportunity for guys to put up their hands and see what's and earn selection for the Test side.
Speaking of putting up their hands, I believe we have a very hairy South African in Ireland that is about to join us. Stephen Kisbey-Green, how are you, man?
Evening, lads. Sorry I'm a bit late. Just finishing up a shift there.
Well, if there's one maybe day where we can allow you to be a bit late, it's probably today.
Definitely. Big, a lot of big calls happening a couple hours ago.
Yeah, so we already had Shaun's reaction, but before we sort of start dissecting some of the calls and sort of looking at the squad, what was your initial reaction when you watched that announcement?
Got to choose my words carefully. I don't want to swear on broadcast. I was a little bit confused by a lot of the selections going on there. I mean, the very first name to be read out, Bundiaki, nobody would have picked him. Well, not necessarily picked him, but nobody had him in their prediction squads, and it left field all the way. Couple of the big names like Johnny Sexton missing out. James Ryan, this time last year he was a nail-on starter. He probably would have pushed Alan Wynne-Jones for a spot. Now he's not even in the squad. It's a little bit strange. Basically, it's an intriguing side. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how Gatland plays Warren Ball with this side. It's not your typical Warren Ball side. Lot of big. What was that?
That's why Aki's there. Tuolagi was in.
Exactly. You got to have a facsimile for Tuolagi. But apart from Tuolagi, or the budget Tuolagi, there's not too much bulk in that side. There's aggression, sure, but it seems a bit light for a Lions tour coming to South Africa, which is interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that everyone was that was the one thing I think everybody thought was a given. Everybody kept saying, the pack for South Africa, the pack is so big. How do you counteract the powerful South Africa? They're going to get a battery. And they're like, Gatland's going to have to go with this big, burly squad to try and counteract the South Africa forwards. And he's pretty much just given everybody the middle finger and said, you know what, I'll do what I want. And this is what I'm going to take. And I was saying what was quite nice before you came on, we were talking about the amount of Scottish players who've got the call up and how it's actually quite a nice reflection. And I think to a certain degree, some of the English players probably lucky to be there, but I think some of these players, there definitely has been a little bit of an element of current form being taken into account.
Definitely. I think the biggest one there for me is actually Dan Biggar. He's been phenomenal at the moment, both for club and for country. Obviously, Hamish Watson also deserves. He's a big name to be added to that. But for me, Biggar's your starting fly-off, based purely on that form, and you'll be hard pressed to see anyone arguing with that. Really, if you're looking at just current form. Another one that I was also speaking of the Scottish players was Duane Fondamerva.
Yeah,
Scottish.
Yeah.
He's very
Vandermervy.
He's 100% a completely different Lions wing than what we would have expected from Gatland. He's more powerful. He's able to slot into this 13 channel a bit more often than the likes of an Anthony Watson, for example. It's going to be interesting to see how he interacts with the rest of the squad and if he makes it into that test squad, because a Duane Fondamerva versus a Chesden Colby or a Spoon Cozy is going to be a phenomenal watch, I think.
But you know what, Steve?
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just interject there? The likes of Vermeulen and Du Toit are going to be waiting for Fondamerva to cut inside. They're going to be praying that he does. I was also surprised at DTH's selection. I wasn't surprised, but I just don't. I'm not so sure about him. I mean, obviously he's like a human pinball that bounces off players. He's an unbelievable athlete. He is, but his basics and his handling, I'm just not so sure. There were some moments, some loose passes, some handling errors in the Six Nations, and I mean, there's a reason that he isn't in the box side, So, but it will be interesting.
I think the reason that he's not in the box side is a couple of reasons. One, we've got better players. Not that he doesn't deserve to be there, but we've got the likes of Nkosi, we've got the likes of Colby. Just they're World Cup winners for a reason. But I agree with you there. For me, the biggest question mark around Fondamerva is his defense, and it's not so much that he misses tackles as much as his spatial awareness on defense, particularly at test level, has been exposed. So it's kind of it's intriguing in that sense.
Yeah, I think what's going to be very, and I also quite like that he's kind of thrown in the dice. Lots of people sort of quite upset that there's no Johnny May, and lots of people are upset that there isn't Elliot Daly. But I mean, people are saying that now he's a bit more sort of adaptable. What I really like is the fact that he's gone and backed Louis Rees-Zammit. I mean, 20 years old now on a Lions tour. I thought he was absolutely sublime in the Six Nations, and also somebody where I mean, obviously he's got the face of a 10-year-old at a push, but the way he plays, you wouldn't think that he's 20 years old. I mean, there was that moment. I think it was against Ireland when they were under pressure, and they just want to turn over, and he just turned around and put a kick in behind, which I think they were in their 22 and went out in their 22, and just sort of a little bit of game management. I think he's someone who's playing beyond the years of a 20-year-old. So it's nice to see that there are a couple of players who are a little bit sort of dicey and not just sort of standard picks, because I enjoy that. We were talking about it earlier, the fact that Rassie Erasmus tried a few things and said, you know what, Jason Colby's playing so well, and think why can't he make it for the box? And we saw what he did. But in terms of, let's start with sort of big players who are missing, and obviously the big ones. The big one for me, I was quite surprised, especially given how good he was last to us, probably Johnny Sexton. Although I think I actually backed the call. First of all, I'm a big Finn Russell fan. Second of all, we know that Sexton's made of glass.
Well, if I can lend in a bit of the Irish perspective, because obviously I've been working as a journal over here for a while. Sexton was the one that every Irish journalist and every Irish punter was backing. He was nail on, starting number 10 for the big test at the end of the series, and he's the one that's going to win it for the Lions. Obviously, that's not going to happen now, but everyone was thinking, yeah, Sexton can't make 3 tests in a row, and he can't play week in, week out rugby anymore. They were hoping that Gatland didn't need him for that, and that was it. You bring Sexton on for that last game. He benches every other match or whatever the case is, but he starts in that final test and he wins it, and there we go. I agree. He is getting a bit old, and it's the concussions for me. It's the head injuries that just have kept him out. I mean, Gatland said it himself after the announcements. That was the deciding factor. Finn Russell is also, he's a bit of a gamble, to be honest, if you ask me, because
Mercurial is the word.
no, a gamble. Purely because, yeah, he's you just have to look at the final a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago now, actually. Through an intercept pass, they lose by 2 points. He's brilliant to watch, but not to support, if you know what I mean.
Like, no, he's a total maverick. Excuse me, I totally agree with you. It would be, there's no. I would love to see him play 10. I mean, really, it would just be unbelievable. But it's not going to happen under Gatland. But no, I mean,
I think it's going to be Dan Bigger. I think we know that's going to be the shout. That's the safe shout. I'd like to see Finn Russell on the bench, though, because I think he is a player he's one of those players. He'll win you or he'll lose your match. There's not much in between, to be honest.
I think what he's likely going to do is he's going to put Russell starting 10 against the invitational side or the SAA. Yeah. I don't know if both of them are happening, but at least one of them will be happening.
Yeah, they should be. I think in theory both of them are happening.
So Russell's probably going to start one of them, and off the back of that performance, he will either start or bench the first test. And that's going to be it. I don't think he's taking Farrell as a fly-off, even though he's listed as a fly-off.
No, I don't think so as well. I think especially when you look at the centers he's picked, I think that.
You can't. I can't imagine, especially also when you look at how much 12 Farrell's been playing for club and country as well. He's been almost exclusively used as 12 under Eddie Jones.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, I think England do work a lot better when he has been at 12 and they've had George Ford at 10. But so, I mean, Sexton's a big one. I think another couple of big calls. No Moani Tuilagi, I don't think that's surprising, with the injury record he's got. Sorry?
He hasn't played since September, Tuilagi.
Yeah, and but CJ Stander, I think, is one for the romance of it. I'm quite upset isn't coming. So I just think, somebody coming down after, having such a big career for Ireland, coming to play for the Lions against South Africa would have been it had a nice ring to it.
Yeah, it did. I think his last piece of his last effect that he's had on a South African rugby pitch, though, would probably leave a bit of a bitter taste in a lot of South Africans' mouth. If you got to remember the last time he laced up a pair of boots, goodbye Lambie.
Literally goodbye.
Exactly. So there was that, but I think he also wanted a chance to redeem himself for that front because he was obviously very apologetic after that incident, and he had never played in front of a South African audience since then, as far as to my best of my recollection. To
be fair, he's still not going to, even if he made the squad.
Very fair, very fair. Although we never know, maybe Jake White lures him out of retirement in 2 years to play for the Bulls.
I'm waiting for that. I'd be very surprised if that's the end. We've seen the story before.
Just on that though, I do believe that he genuinely believes he's coming to retire, but then White's going to be whispering in his ear. I don't think he's coming over with the intention of playing for the Bulls personally, but that's a side note.
The Bulls UC's already flipped. Got quite a side.
I think the Bulls can always add an extra player.
I think if one provincial side is going to beat the Lions, it's probably going to be the Bulls.
Yeah. But I mean, it's that side that they are building is tremendous. I mean, it's actually becoming a bit of a joke. And you compare that to like how the Lions can creatively put 15 players on a field, and yet the Bulls have got, Marcel Coetzee and the likes, Marcel Coetzee, Albert Lowe, coming on at Duane Fondamerva, and all just in the loosies.
Just don't get me started, and then don't get me started on them taking Harold Forster when the Lions just lost Tian Swanepoel as well. Like, imagine what Forster would have. No. I'm irritated by the state of that UXK derby at the moment.
Yeah, or the lack thereof. So which one with the other bigs? I mean, James Ryan's a name that's been throwing around in every single comment section. The fact that everybody reckons he should have gone. What are the other big players for you guys that you were surprised not to see?
Shaun, what's your take on Carl Sinclair not being there?
Oh well, I mean that's one of the big ones. I was really surprised. He went with Porter. I think
Andrew Porter, yeah.
I don't know. I think you just wonder with a player like Sinclair, and I don't know. I haven't read anything, but his discipline in the past has just let him down. When he plays for Bristol, he's always having a go at opposition, let alone the ref. You just got to wonder if that factors in because he's a terrific player. He wasn't bad for England. They were mediocre, but he's a hell of a player. He's a very talented ball carrier. His handling's good. Scrummaging's good. Obviously, Furlong, I think, for me, would be the starting number 3 in any case. But, very surprised that Sinclair wasn't picked.
I mean, do you think that on the point of props, do you think that that England-Ireland game where the Ireland scrum was just wreaking havoc, do you think that played quite a big role, Kisbey?
I think it did. Not as big as the potential for Porter to switch sides. He's the only international level prop that's been able to do it to a certain level of success in recent years. South Africa tried it a while back, and we failed miserably with everyone we tried. With everyone. And it's just, I think the only one that hasn't moved sides is the Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think more than the general performance of the Irish scrum against England, it's that versatility, especially in such a small squad. This is the smallest squad of British and Irish Lions players to tour since 1997.
And there's one more supposed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The last time a side was this small was in '97. One was also 37 man, and that was an unprofessional side. So Gatland knows that he needs a lot of players that can play multiple positions and play them well, which is exactly why he's gone for Porter, because he's been successful, whilst he hasn't necessarily been phenomenal when he's had to change over to the loose. He's been test level at least, or just scraping by test level on the opposite side of the scrum. So, as you say, Furlong was always going to be there. Who is the other tight head? I can't remember.
The Ferguson, but I don't know if he's a Lucy.
No, Ferguson's a tight. So your Lucy's are Sutherland, Wyn Jones, and Furlong, and then your tight heads are Porter.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Furlong was the tight head. The third Lucy's Winapola, I think.
That's it. Yeah.
God, as I'm finally pull up the squad here.
Yeah.
You should
already have it on you, man.
Oh, you should have it as well.
Yeah, I mean, actually, whilst we're on it, though, personally, I think Marco Vunipola is lucky to be in the side. I think he's lucky.
There's a squad for reference. Now I can. Yeah. Now Poodle's got it. I told you I had it. For me, yeah. and I mean, in terms of players that we're excited, I mean, to include. The fact that I think that Hamish Watson was a doubt still blows my mind. I mean, if anybody watched that Six Nations and watched the performances he put in week out, the fact that I think that people were even thinking about coming without him just blows my mind.
No, but Brew, he's too small, eh? He's too small.
Stephen Jones.
I mean, it literally began with me. When I sat there sitting there and people saying, no, Hamish Watson doesn't make it. I said, what do you mean Hamish Watson? Are you guys? I'm watching the same player here. You know, I mean,
it's the same argument. To me, he's a Heinrich Brousseau-esque type loose forward. He's everything you'd want in a loose forward, in a South African number 6, Northern Hemisphere number 7. He is everything that you'd want there. The only thing is, when you're coming up against the likes of a Duane Fondamerva or a Pieter-Steph du Toit or even a Siya Kolisi, he is a bit on the light side, but he's not. He doesn't give that much away to a Kolisi. So, I'm definitely excited to see him in the squad. The only argument that I've heard against him is literally the fact that he is quote unquote smaller than Kolisi, but Kolisi is not the largest loose forward on the planet either.
No, I mean, it's not like he's a giant. And I also think that he's one of those players that even with his size, you know, it's not like he's going to sit there and say, right, well, Dwayne's running towards you, I'm going to grab a leg. You know, he's going to have a go and say, you know what, if it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well, but I'm going to 100% run into this chap and we're going to see what happens. You know, he's not a player who's going to lie down and just, you know, try and do something. He'll put his body on the line. You know exactly what you get from him.
Massive heart.
Probably the one thing that I don't think anyone was surprised about, probably the worst kept secret in the world. And so we'll start with you. Captaincy. It has to be Wyn Jones.
Of course. I'm a huge fan. Most capped test player of all time. There's some arguments. Some people are saying that he's not at his best, that he's way down the pecking order. I disagree. Look, he may not be in the form of an Itoje or a James Ryan who isn't there, but I still think that he can get into that starting 15. He's charismatic, he's experienced, he's level-headed. For me, it was a no-brainer. I don't know, Kisbey, what you think.
Well, if you believed any of the English media, it was only ever going to be Itoje, and there was no question of anyone else. And if you even suggested anyone else, you were completely wrong. But if you're a logical human being, it was always going to be Wyn Jones. Also, another thing is that's been said a lot, even by former captains like Warburton and like a tour captain does not necessarily have to be your test captain. A tour captain doesn't necessarily have to be the best player in his position. They need to be the best leader out of the group, and by far that's Alan Wynne-Jones. Alan Wynne-Jones is the leader that Whiteley was for the Lions for so long, times 10. He's done everything that you could possibly do for Wales, except for win a World Cup, and there is
Wales. We'll forgive him.
It's if you're not English, there was no one else that could possibly lead that side.
And if he doesn't start for the test, which players do you think are in with a shot? And we know that Warren Gatland favours a forward. But if we weren't necessarily Warren Gatland and we're picking, your sort of best your best sort of 15, which sort of players would jump out at you if Wynne-Jones is not starting as a potential captain?
Well, people will say Itoje, and I just look. The one thing for me is he hasn't even captained Saracens. I've
never understood the Itoje captain shout. I've never understood where it's come from, where it began, how it came to become. I've never looked at him and thought that is a test match captain.
He's an eloquent, well-spoken guy, and he clearly has a lot of respect. Obviously, he's probably the best player in that squad. But I sort of tend to agree with you, Steve. I don't know. Maybe if you're looking for someone, I don't know if he'll get a start in the test, but maybe Justin Tipuric. I don't really see anyone that stands out.
See, and that is the point, though. Apart from an Owen Farrell type, which I don't think or Stuart Hogg, and neither one of them stand a chance of being a Gatland captain. They just don't.
No, not a Gatland. That's what I'm saying. If we had to take the Gatland cap off, we've just seen Hogg for Scotland. We've seen Farrell for England.
I mean, in terms of a Gatland captain, a forward captain, there is no one but a Wynne-Jones or a Wynne-Jones. So an Alan Wynne-Jones or a Wynne-Jones, to be honest. I personally, I think Itoje's dealings with referees rules him completely out of a captaincy for me. He's a very eloquent and respectable guy off the pitch, but on the pitch, it's like asking Bucky's Buerta to be your captain. Would you?
Yeah, he's always in the fringes, isn't he? I mean, he's always sort of. To be fair, that's what I've always felt a similar sort of thing with Owen Farrell. Somebody that's always on the fringes, always sort of pushing the line. There's always a certain amount of merit in that person being captain because they, in theory, can try and get a good relationship with the referee and maybe can try and sort of slide. And it happens a lot with football where it's a lot of people with a big temper. They kind of make them to captain so that they're allowed to speak to the referee. But it's a difficult one. But I think that Wynne-Jones, he's Alan Wynne-Jones is just made for this. He's been there. As I was saying, it's his fourth tour. It's mental.
Exactly. I think that the Itoje talk comes from a similar line as to why Eddie Jones made Dylan Hartley captain. It'll calm him down.
Yeah.
And in fairness, it worked for Hartley. He got much fewer penalties against him, much fewer yellow cards, much fewer red cards. He did step up as a captain when he captained England, but Itoje needs to captain a club side before he can captain the Lions for me.
Well, he needs to play for a Premiership side first.
Too soon? No, never too soon.
Well, I can't. It must be so difficult because I can understand the sort of the reasoning, and people are saying, well, the Saracens aren't playing Premiership. How can you pick Saracens players? But then you look at the past 4 years and say, right, well, I'm going to need you to leave out Owen Farrell. I'm going to need you to leave Mario Itoje. Like, that was one of the things during the Six Nations. It must be so difficult to try and leave out a Mario Itoje and say, well, he's not playing high standard of rugby.
See, but it is possible in other positions. It's not necessarily you can't leave out an Owen Farrell or an Itoje, but you can leave out a Mako Vunipola.
Oh yeah, and I think you should.
Exactly. So it's the players themselves that need to be isolated, not necessarily all Saracens. It's the Saracens players that are not actually playing well and who lose to tier 2 clubs, because they have actually lost to tier 2 clubs with
first game.
With both Vunipolas in the starting lineup. The argument isn't do we leave out Farrell and Itoje, it's do we leave out everyone else? And I think they should have left out everyone else, because 11 for me is 11 England players in this Lion squad is ludicrous.
Daily?
Yeah, I mean, on the back of the Six Nations, I think that's probably the sort of the biggest sort of the form versus reputation. You know, you're going to sit there and say that England have been pretty. I mean, the last 2 years before this were so solid, but now this last Six Nations were dreadful, like really dreadful. Our path back to Italy to do a job against it at some stage. You know,
I don't understand one of the selections. Sorry, just while we're on the topic, was Elliot Daly. I mean, I know that he can scoop a ball 60 meters, but I was very, very surprised to see his name there.
Look, I mean, the Springboks are not going to pick Tian Swanepoel because you can do the same. Put it that way.
Not yet. I backed Swanepoel for a Springbok, at least one cap some point when he comes back off crutches.
British Lions talk, another.
He's gonna do that like pre-championship, pre-World Cup championship when they send that B team to New Zealand. He's gonna be one of those sort of caps, like Werner Krier and Dean Grayling.
No. He's going to play for 20 odd years, and then he's going to get one cap at the end of his career, like Franco Fondamerva.
Yeah, the signature. Here we go. Good
old Franco. No, I mean I agree with you. Daly, he's a very odd selection in that side. He's versatile. He can play pretty much anywhere in the back line, but it's kind of like trying to do a Ruan Pienaar. I believe he is listed as centre. Yeah.
Very strange. I mean, what about Ringrose? Kisbey, surely Ringrose got to be ahead of him there.
Yes and no. I'm not surprised by the Ringrose omission purely because he got injured. He hasn't been huge since he came back from injury. He needs to refine his form.
Surely got to go for Ringrose. Oh, there must be some more names. We're not. Davis as well. Jonathan Davis.
Davis
that was a big one for me,
especially for Gatland. For what Davis did for Gatland in New Zealand, it's just huge that he's not there now.
Yeah, I mean, he was player of the series in 2017, 2013, the third test when Gatland dropped O'Driscoll from the matchday squad for that make or break test and put in a hell of a shift.
Yeah, some very good calls.
The other one that what did Chris Harris do to get into the side?
I was going to ask you about Harris. Honestly, I think he's a phenomenal defender. I think that's why they bought him. He was fantastic when the Scots beat France in Paris. I think he was very influential there.
I think it was Squid Rugby that was doing a video and was talking about how he's a very understated player, but he reckons that the off-the-ball work he does on the defense and how important he is and the decisions he makes on defense. That like if you want to play a defensive system, he's one of those players who will bail you out because his positioning and his reading of play is so good. So for me, that's one of those sort of wild card selections.
Yeah,
yeah.
Look, I'm all for wild card selections. Look, somebody made a good point and said, chances are you haven't factored in injuries yet, and they're coming for there's some big games. I mean, you've got Japan first on the 26th of June, and then you've got 3rd July. Then you've got Stormers, SA Invitational, Sharks, SAA, Bulls, and then the 3 tests. So someone was saying that the player of the series might not even be on the plane on the way down. Because how often do we see it? Somebody gets injured and somebody gets called up. And now also, what's always for me quite interesting is how often is the person that gets called up often then actually go into the side?
Yeah,
because obviously you're not going to call up some youngster who's doesn't really know what you're doing. You're going to go and find somebody who's tried and tested, and often when the chips are down and things are stacked against you, you're going to say, right, well, you know what, he's a 60 test veteran, I'm going to back him, and it often comes good. So I think it'd be quite interesting.
So are we going to say that Owen Farrell's going to get injured against the Stormers, and then Johnny Sexton's going to come in and win the championship?
Yeah, can you come for those last 2 tests? I think that's quite interesting. I mean, who do we think are sitting on that sort of subs bench? I mean, if there are injuries, and hopefully there aren't any, but with a tour like this, there inevitably are. Yeah, I thought he was somebody as well who I thought was quite hard done by. I thought he was. I mean, from coming off the bench in that first game, it was the first time I've seen a reasonable amount of him, and I sat there thinking this is a proper player,
especially against those Port Lucies. Yeah.
I mean, before the squad was announced, he was in my starting lineup, Test match.
You're not alone on that. I was looking at a bunch of squads because I was busy preparing all the graphics. I was taking like some mock squads so I wouldn't have to do much editing. Or I had to do a lot of bloody editing because nobody got the squads right. But he was in a lot of people's squads. But to be fair, I mean that Welsh loose trio I think they were one of the biggest reasons that they won the Six Nations.
That and very well placed props having really punchable faces and drawing the red card tackles.
You can only beat what's in front of you, and if you've got the punchable face and they punch you, well, take the ticket and roll with it.
No, I agree with you there completely. Though that any and every one of those Welsh loose forwards could be in the Lions squad, and nobody would bat an eye. I think. Just going on to questions of how the hell they got there. Johnny Hill. Sorry, just while they're at it.
Yeah.
How? Why?
He's a walking penalty. That I don't know how many penalties he gave away in the Six Nations.
Then again, he's English. So how many penalties did England give away? They like you can't single out one player for England's penalty woes. They were all horrible.
Him and Itoje definitely count for about 60% though.
And odds are they're going to be a starting partnership at some point.
Oh.
Maybe not in a test, but at least in one of the warm-up games.
Well, as a side, I would froth to see if I saw those two in the starting lineup. I'd sit there saying, "Right, chaps, I hope you got kicking shoes on because we're gonna have a field day."
I would whisper into Etzebeth or the like, just saying, hey, just give him a bit of a niggle, just give him rile him up a little bit, make them get angry, and then let's see.
It's too easy as well. It's too easy.
Yeah, well, that's why Alan wins there as well. I think
I think you do need that level-headed because there are some very hot-headed players. A lot of experience, but there are also some players here that can just do some stupid things.
I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, go for it. No, I was going to say, in terms, that's the internet. Shaun, you go for it. I'm going to wait 10 seconds so you can hear me. You go for it.
Right. So I was going to talk about Josh Adams because he's a phenomenal finisher. His strike rate is unreal. But has he battled with injury a bit? He was sort of off people's radar, but he got the call up there. Obviously he's going to be battling with Anthony Watson, who will probably, I think he's probably a shoo-in for the 14 jersey. I don't know what you guys think, unless something happens. And then obviously Liam Williams. What do you think of those wingers?
I just want to see Lewis Rezaman play. The concept for me of some 20-year-old kid who's come onto the scene and saying, "Right, chap, go and play against the world champions, see what you got." I love that sort of story, but yeah, I'm a sport romantic. So, excuse me, you be the level-headed one. Where are you going with those wings?
Starting is going to be Watson, 100%. I don't know if Williams is going to start on the wing or if he's going to back up Hogg at fullback. Honestly, just for the sake of who he is and adding a bit of an extra dimension to the game, I think outside call of Fondamerva starting on the other wing, Watson and Fondamerva with Hogg at the back. Again, that's maybe me wanting to see another South African run out for the Lions. But I just think it'll be interesting to see him coming off of his wing, running actually a little bit, not unlike, I don't know if you guys watched the Women's Six Nations. Bevan Parsons played for Ireland, coming in off the number 10 channel a lot, cutting into the centers. That to me is what I think Gatland, it is a little bit like Warren Ball, but it's not, it's a more advanced version. It's a more updated version of Warren Ball that I think will work well. And that's why I think that he's going to put Fondamerva up. Maybe not for the first test, definitely not for the last test, but at second test when things are not necessarily in the balance.
Yeah, I think that he's just. I don't think we could have predicted how much he kind of just sort of took to international rugby like duck to water, just made scoring tries look stupidly easy. And I think that if if it's going to be a case of you're going to have very limited opportunity, you might not be able to have 4 or 5 goes. He's somebody that makes every run count. He really is like we saw it against France and we saw it against England. When he gets that chance, he'll make it count, and he's a devastating finisher. And I also think that physicality comes a long way because, as you say, the centers of South Africa, Damien Daly playing some tremendous rugby at the moment. It's going to be a physical midfield in that box midfield. So having that extra option, with a decent amount of pace, also, probably somebody that can help out with a bit of the Afrikaans going on the field. There's always been a couple of extra tricks like that. England used to love doing that as well.
He is the brother of a not too out of the way Springbok hopeful as well.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the Springbok side in a moment. So I'm going to be quite interested to see, because I think there's a lot of couple of injuries and stuff like that. But before we do that, so if we look at the squad over here, and we had to try and pick the first test, assuming that they've all come through, they've all played pretty well. We now have test match rugby. We've got the Springboks, a similar side to the 2019 World Cup final. 1 through 15. Who are we going with? Okay, so number 1.
Wyn Jones.
So you're going Wyn Jones. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I don't. I think it's a fairly safe call, especially when when doing this.
It's a toss-up. Either Wyn Jones or Rory Sutherland can start easily, and I'll be happy. I would be perfect.
As a Southern Hemisphere person, when you watch the Six Nations, it just amazes me, especially when you watch the provincial rugby, how good the scrums are and how good scrummaging is. And there's just no resets. There are minimal penalties, and the props just hold their own a lot of time. Because you watch the provincial rugby at the moment, especially in South Africa, and it's just a bloody dog show.
I think the main reason for that though is, and this is not me. If you listen to the pundits over here, that is, it's because they're equally matched and they're at a lower they're slightly weaker than the Southern Hemisphere teams. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing from the pundits on this side. They're bigging up. Apparently, Frans Malherbe is the precision scrummager, according to certain people.
Well, let's be honest. When you watch him onto the field, he has to be good at something.
No, he's literally just a walking slab of meat. That is all he is. It's not precision scrummage. He falls into players and they can't hold him up. That is it. And that's the point, though. It's the South African scrummaging machine. It's not as balanced as the Northern Hemisphere teams because you have those players that are just better and they're just massively strong. And then the reason that they have so many resets is because they're in teams that have weak. So like if you look at Oxenchair versus Steve Sitole, Oxenchair is going to beat Sitole every day of the week.
Yeah,
but it doesn't always happen because Oxenchair's scrummaging partner might not be as strong as Nche, whereas Porter and Furlong are equally as strong. Cian Healy and Furlong equally as strong. Vunipola and Rory Sutherland equally as strong. So that's why it seems that their scrums are a lot more consistent than Southern Hemisphere scrums, purely because the level of players are more consistent, but they're at a lower level, according to some. So that's why I think literally anyone between Wyn Jones and Sutherland can easily walk into that starting 15, and it'll be like for like.
Okay, so we'll go with the Jones Sutherland. Who is starting at tight head? Are we going Furlong? Has to be, eh? And hooker? So I think this is quite a big call.
I'm going Owens.
The sheriff.
I mean, if you look at Six Nations, he's the only out of the three. He's the only one that had a decent Six Nations.
I must admit, I mean, those the two English chaps were just sort of one in, one out, one in, one out, and I wouldn't say one ever at one point sit there saying, "Listen, I'm the starting hooker. I'm not. You can't move me out of the side." So, it's a decent shout. I can back the Owens chat.
You were going to say?
Huh? No, I was going to say I want to hear each of your starting 15s.
You know what? Because I know you've got one.
I got the messenger.
And I've been trying to avoid picking one for like the entire bloody thing because I sit there and I'll get there and I'm like, oh shit, but how am I leaving this guy? Okay, cool. I think let's do that. Let's keep that interesting. So, excuse me, do you have one in mind, or do I need to try and wing one off quickly?
I can pick one now if Shaun wants to go first though, because I'm sure he's got his written out and he's got cue cards and
He wants to go last. He's gonna have notes and rattle out some statistics and Statman Shaun over there.
He's probably got graphics prepared and everything, like the weird Star Trek beam up that they did with Alwyn Jones.
He's gonna have a touchscreen and gonna sit there and say, "You see, when this guy goes there, this is gonna happen."
He's gonna have tactical. He's got tactical subs planned and all that sort of jazz.
Not quite. I'll go.
Sure, we'll leave you for last because while Kisbey names his, I'm going to try and put mine together. So Kisbey, go for it.
Cool. Well,
we've got front row.
Yeah, go front row. It's Wyn Jones, Owens, and Furlong. Then locks are kind of obvious: Alan Wyn Jones and Murray Toje. Back three, got to think it's it's interesting. I would go Watson, Curry, and Faletau.
Oh, shit, I was going to say that. Now I have to try and change mine.
There's only one scrum half worth of salt there, and that's Conor Murray. Bigger. Who did I say on the wings? Watson. Although Watson would be 14, so starting Duane on left. So Duane on left. Owen Farrell at 12, Henshaw at 13, Watson at 14, and Hogg at 15.
But who was your outside?
Outside Henshaw.
Henshaw.
Okay.
Now I feel like I need to try and deviate from that a little bit.
Why? Because you were going to say the exact same thing.
Or more or less. This is the problem.
It's all mine as well. It's all similar.
I should just pick like a wild. I'm gonna pick the wild cards here. So I'll back the front row. Mostly because I don't really care for what they do in the front there. The ball must come in and must come out, and what they do in between, great. Locks, I don't think we really can go away from Itoje and Wyn Jones, really. Loose trio. Hamish Watson has to start for me, as does Faletau. I'm going to go... I really just want to say bloody Tom Curry. I don't know. You can't play Tom Curry because I think him and bloody...
I'll do you a favor then. I'll drop Curry for Henderson.
Yeah, I was thinking of Henderson because I was a big fan there. Okay, you go Henderson. I'm going to go Curry. Then... Yeah, I mean, it probably has to be Conor Murray. I'm going to go Finn Russell. That's going to be my differentiator here. I'm going to play a little bit of a match winner there. I'm gonna stick with Duane Fondamerva, but I'm gonna go with the midfield of Farrell has to start, doesn't he? The bastard.
He doesn't.
I'm gonna go Farrell and Aki. Bundy Aki. Wild card here. Finn Russell, Bundy Aki. We're taking the wild cards here.
You want Aki at 13?
Yeah, back him. I've seen, he can do it.
God rest your backline.
Mate, you've got Daly down to the center. I don't think they're really sitting there going and saying these are all the positions here. Back, my boy. No, in fact, you know what? Bugger that. No, actually, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep that. I'm just going to.
Were you going to put Daly at 13?
No, well, that's the problem because I was sat there going, no, who's my other 13? I thought, shit, no. I'm going to put the cock up a block. I'm going to go Bundy Aki at 13. Back the bugger. Yeah, I mean, we know it's going to be Anthony Watson, but I'm going to go... No, I'm not going to go. I love Stuart Hogg too much. I was going to say, let me be different and go Liam Williams at fullback, but it has to be Hogg. Hogg's like one of my favorite players in the world.
I mean, also for the romanticism of it, he got injured by his own player in New Zealand and didn't make a test side. He deserved the test start.
And he just celebrates so well. Like, he gets me hyped.
Yeah.
All right, Shaun, let's check out. Let's listen to your graphics and everything.
Okay, chaps, hold on. Let me just insert my.
You know what? No, before you do, I'm gonna recall my Bundy Aki, and I'm gonna go with I'm gonna bring the crowd in. I'm gonna go with the fans, and we're gonna bring in Chris Harris. Yeah, that's good. That's gonna be my shout. Okay, I'm gonna back Chris Harris outside. There we go. That's my little my differentiator there. Russell, Chris Harris, they'll do the job.
All
Okay,
right.
Shaun,
So,
bring out the graphics.
yeah, I mean, look, again, it's anything can happen. Injuries and form in the midweek side, in the midweek games. I've gone with not a team that I think Gatland will play. I've just gone with a fantasy team. So nothing too serious, yeah.
Yeah. So when you take over the lines, when Warren Gatland's visa gets evoked and they call you in, this is what you're picking.
Yeah. Hey, you never know. Look, it's a mobile side. So I've got Wyn Jones. I went Cowan, Dickey, and Hooker, and then Furlong rounding out the front row. Then Atoje, Alan, Wyn Jones. A loose trio. I've gone Curry / the Mish, Hamish, but I'm gonna go with Curry, and then other flanker. I've gone with Tipurich here, but
Yeah, that's always a good shot.
But you know what? Tyg Byrne might play a big role. A lot of people, Kisbey, I don't know, they've been talking about him quite a bit. I haven't watched too much of him, but apparently he is a hard guy. But yeah, we'll see what happens there. Falatau, number 8. Then I've gone with Muriel at number 9 and Finn Russell at 10. I thought Murray would keep Russell a bit honest there. But
My guy.
Yeah. 11, I've gone. I'm going to go Liam Williams.
Okay.
And then you're actually going to hate me for this. I'll put Farrell at 12, Henshaw 13, and then Watson and Hogg.
We really need to find a way to get Farrell out, don't we? Maybe I back my Bundy Aki shout. There we go. Aki at inside, Chris Harris at outside. Finn Russell at 10. Might as well play Ali Price at 9.
Whoa.
No, you need somebody that can actually play Test rugby in your back line.
I was surprised that Russell's inclusion as well.
I think Thomas Williams got snubbed there. How? Yeah.
You know what I miss peak Halfpenny, like when he was playing, when he was untouchable. Oh, those are the days.
2013 series. Yo. Unreal.
So to be fair, not too much difference between our 15s. I think what we have identified is that there are certain players that are going to select themselves. I think we all know that the locks combination is going to be Toje and Adam and Jones. We're pretty settled on the props. We all know it's going to be Conor Murray at 9. Fortunately, we know it's going to be Faz at 12.
So basically, what we're saying is after all that we knew up until this morning, so the test side is going to look nothing like any of the things that we've just said, because we know that Atoje and Wyn Jones are going to start. So Gatland is not going to start them.
Yeah, it's going to be Henderson and Atoje. Watch.
It's going to be Henderson and Byrne. Watch.
But what's so good about Gatland is that he does give players a chance. He's not scared to make a brave call, as we've seen in the past. I mean, 2017, Warburton was the tour captain, and he didn't start the first test. Omani did. He's not afraid to make those big calls. So if Alan Wyn Jones isn't playing well, maybe he won't play.
Do you know what's also very nice is the fact that there's no when the tests start, the tests start. There's no midweek games for the test. So you've got Japan 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got 6 games. There's a lot of rugby to play. You've got 6 matches where you can experiment and try. You can try a lot of combinations in 6 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So okay. Well, I think we can talk about the squad for a long time, but there it is. So somebody's asking in the comments there, Scott Graham. Welcome, Scott. Scott always often jumps on the watch-alongs. Saying, do you know when the SA national team squad will be announced to face the Aboriginal Islands in June? I don't know when it's going to be announced. I don't think there's officially a date. But let's talk about the Springboks side, because I think, given the fact that the Springboks have not played a game since they won the World Cup, world champions, number 1 in the world, it is what it is, eh? It is what it is. It's tough being this good without having to play. But I think what sort of Erasmus was saying last year, if they were to play the championship, that basically he was going to say, here's my World Cup squad. If you're not available, I'll pull in a couple of people. He wasn't going to differentiate from that because they know the system, they know how they play, they know what the story is. Do we think he's going to do a similar sort of thing, or do we think that he might start sitting there saying, right, we have to pick up a couple of players on form and stuff like that? We also got quite a few injuries to deal with. A potential lock crisis in Lua Diaga and Arke Snyman in a race against fitness. I also think Andre Pollard's got a lot to prove because he needs to play some rugby before.
Played well for him. He played well on the weekend.
Yeah, so hopefully it was a good return for him. But I mean, for me, I always just think you just have to play a lot. You can't. Well, I mean, PCF Toy also played a full 80 on his return and looked fantastic. But Shaun, we'll start with you. Squad, are you expecting a similar thing, or are there any players that are are forcing their way into the squad that you just cannot leave them out?
I think Steve, that it's really gonna be pretty much the same, roughly the same starting 15, same squad. The Oaks know what to expect. I think also the brotherhood, the geest there from that World Cup win is not to be underestimated. I think that, like you say, it looks like Arke Snyman has had a big injury setback from what I've read. Mm-hmm. Apparently, it's a different injury, not the one.
Yeah, and they're trying to sort of imply it's not serious. They keep using the word it's a minor procedure, but I mean any sort of procedure less than 2 months before a tour is a red flag, because it's not even just about cool he can play from the 16th of July. He's running out of rugby to be able to play to get up to match fitness. The European seasons are only going to go for so much longer.
He's played 20 minutes of rugby since the World Cup final. 20 minutes, and those are the 20 minutes.
He played in Japan straight afterwards for the Red Dragons, the Red Hurricanes or something.
Did he get game time? I didn't think he got game time.
No. He played a lot in the top league straight after the World Cup. And then I think it was the first game for Munster. He fell off a line out and did his ligaments or something.
Yeah, fell off a line in 14 minutes. So lovely. And it was a good 14 minutes as well. He was man of the match material for 14 minutes, and then his teammates decided that no, we can play without him, so they dropped him.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some guys that I think could force their way in. A lot of people are talking about Jasper Wiese, the former cheater at the Leicester Tigers now. I'm reading a lot about him. Again, I haven't watched too much of him play.
Yeah, I must admit, I haven't watched much of him. I watched a couple of the European games, but I haven't watched much of him.
He's playing phenomenal rugby. He is. I would not be surprised if he is Duane's under 30. He is doing that well.
Pretty cool.
Also,
look, I mean, there are two retirements. I mean, you have to replace Francois Lowe and you have to replace Beast. So there are two inevitable. It's not even about injury. So you have to add those two.
And then Marcel Coetzee for Lowe.
But Marcel Coetzee more. I mean, do we back Marcel Coetzee to be fit enough? Because he's also bloody made of glass at the moment. Came back, looked really good for Ulster in that return. It was like, oh, here we go. About to go to the Bulls, looking really good, and then walked off.
Well, if he gets some minutes for the Bulls, I think that he'll probably be in the squad. I think, personally. He's too good. He's just too good, that oak.
Yeah, Nasi's a big fan. Excuse me, what do you reckon?
I'm personally, you can't ignore Mornay.
I can ignore Mornay.
I mean, I don't like saying it because as we know, I'm a Joburg Boykie, Lions for life. But Mornay is in 2009 form or better for the Bulls right now. Him and Frans Steyn could be your Lions heroes again after 12 years, and I don't see that not happening. Other than that, yeah, they need a new somebody to fill in at lock because, as you say, we are in a bit of a locking crisis. I honestly don't know where Franco Mostert is. I think he's in Japan. I don't know. I don't know how he's playing because obviously in the UK we don't get Japanese streams, so I can't see how he's doing. So at the moment, based off of that World Cup winning team, your locking partnership is Etzebeth and Mostert or Peter Steff. I would argue for Peter Steff purely because of the phenomenal return that he made at the weekend, and just, I mean, I'm a big fan of Mostert, but I always thought that he was third best behind everyone else, and he will always be third best behind everyone else. Great person to have on the bench.
He's just such a workhorse, though. I mean, what you get from the first minute is what you get from the freaking 120th minute if he has to play there. He just doesn't stop.
No, I agree completely. But he does all the stuff, the invisible stuff, and the stuff that you'd want to come on as an impact rather than just to play the full.
Could be back. They say Diacha will be back.
But
will he be? It's two things, and it's also not just game time. It's game time at a decent level, because Urasi was even saying, he said he's not a fan of the Japanese-based players because are they playing tough rugby? Playing in the Premiership versus playing in the Rainbow Cup versus playing in Japan. It's not the same levels.
Yeah.
Just harkens back to that clip. I don't know if you guys saw it, of Andries Becker playing in Japan in literally his last year of rugby ever, where he literally ran through an entire team of Japanese players and they were all hanging on to him, and he was like a giant walking through ferries. It was the most beautiful thing to watch. He ran 60 meters through players, but as you say, it's not top level rugby. It's not Lions level rugby.
So I mean, your Jesse Creels, your Mapimpies, your Malcolm Marks, Franco Master. There's a lot of players that are over there. And also, it's 3 tests. You can't afford to get up to grips with test match rugby during the match. So it's tough. It's tough. I think that's my biggest worry. And same thing in the Rainbow Cup. To be honest, I think that it's better than what we saw, I think, in Super Rugby Unlocked. But I still haven't watched a game and thought, yeah, you know what, that is the standard of rugby that we expect to see in South Africa. I think we'll get there. But I think that we were so desperate to be able to go over and play those 3 weeks overseas and play a Munster, play an Ulster, even if it's just somebody different. It's different tactics, different players, different environment. That's what test players, not just playing, 15 Yusko derbies every third week.
But look at the number of players that are playing over there. Over here. You've got Damon Allender. You've got Chetland Colby. You've got a whole litany of players playing in the Premiership. You've got you can take literally 3/4 of the Sale Sharks team and give them a Springbok jersey and they'll run out and they'll be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like the Duprees, all 3 of them. I think Dan Dupree is the only one that I would actually say is Springbok worthy, personally. But at a push, if you were to ask all 3 of them to line up in a Springbok jersey, they'd be able to, and they'd put up a decent fight against.
Well, they all have, they all have been part of squads before and stuff like that. So at least they sort of know the setup.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily need to look at just the South African leg of the Rainbow Cup to see, okay, these are my Springboks. And
I just worry for even a Duane Fondamerva. I mean, Duane Fondamerva will be fine, but those sort of players like Siya Kolisi, who was battling with form, he needs to be playing high level and be able to say, cool. Because I mean, it's almost so sad. I think it's very reflective of the pandemic and the sort of attitude everybody has. But he went from being number one hero, couldn't put a foot wrong, to playing some fairly ordinary rugby in Super Rugby Unlocked, and now everyone's saying, well, he doesn't even make the squad. So it's sort of those sort of players I worry about playing, and even Peace Steph to Toy, being able to get minutes under the belt at a high level.
Well, the thing is, for me, as long as I've been watching it, Kolisi's always had those question marks about is he the best number 6, and that's purely because of people's preferences. For me, he's always first choice number 6, and I don't think he's played himself out of that jersey yet. Somebody needs to play him out of it, and nobody has. And it's not just it's not like a Warren Whiteley where he's there because he's the captain. He's there because he's the captain because he's there, and nobody's played him out of it.
Is that he doesn't? He's not a marker for starting. He's not sitting there winning 15 penalties at the breakdown, stuff like that. And the problem is players like that, and that's why everyone's saying that Naman Klaba completely outplayed him over the weekend. And nobody can sort of understand that he's not that player. He's a different player. And until you sort of wrap your head around that he's not going to be 100 Crusoe, he's going to win you all the pens in the ball, but you don't necessarily need that because you've got Duane Fondamerva can do that job. Malcolm Marks can do that job. You don't need him to do that job. But that's the problem. you know, you've got these sort of glamour job. And I would say Fetcher is quite a glamour job because you're in the spotlight, and it can go one of two ways. If you get it wrong, you concede 15 penalties and everybody calls you useless. But if you get it right, then everybody's sitting there saying, well, how do you not take him? He's won, 4 penalties at the breakdown. So I think it's quite easy to say, look at and say another club who I did think was fantastic over the weekend won 3 penalties and sit there saying, well, he outplayed Khaleesi. But you're comparing oranges with apples here.
Yeah.
Off the top of your head, do you know what Khaleesi's tackle count was? Or I mean, not the exact number, but like was it roughly high? I didn't check those stats before I came on.
I saw an article. In fact, let me just put a pin in there because I've been trying to find individual stats. Watching the preparation series in South Africa was a ball ache because there was just nothing. There were no stats. There was absolutely nothing. And on the Rainbow Cup now, there also was something. But I read an article which listed some stats. So let me try and find that because it actually had something on Khaleesi. Yeah,
because I mean that to me is the big indicator of what your number 6 is doing. If being a jackler, being a turnover king is always important. But if your 6 is not making the most tackles, or the second most tackles, or the third most tackles on the field, then there's questions. If they're not making the most breakdowns, or the second most breakdowns, or the third most breakdowns, there's problems. And I genuinely think that Khaleesi is the player that's making the second or third most tackles, or making the second or first or the most breakdowns. He's doing
during that World Cup. It was Khaleesi, Peace, and Duane. They were just always at the top there. Frank and there would usually be a lock. One of the locks would obviously step up, but those three were always topping those tackle charts.
And Khaleesi also, he's a good linker. He links up well. I mean, on the week
he played yard. I mean, it was 2 tries that he was playing a big part in.
He sidestepped Dalton Yankees, and Yankees is still looking for his bearings.
That was
back there. I don't think there's any doubt over Khaleesi. I think it's a lot of pessimism which comes with the situation. We've gone from being a national hero to going back to is he the best in position, because he's not what lots of people want to see in a number 6. But the game is changing. If you look at a hooker and what I grew up watching, and most of us grew up watching John Smith, and you think of what a hooker is now, it's a completely different game. So I think it's quite narrow-minded when you start sort of sitting there saying, well, the number 6 has to be your Fetcher in South Africa.
I mean, to be honest, Marks, if you're looking at the stereotypical number 6, it's Malcolm Marks.
Yeah, well, that's why everybody said, and I mean, that's why Skalk Brits was ahead of his time.
Yeah. That's
why Skalk Brits was put. I mean, how many often was Skalk Brits chucked on the flank? Because they're like, well, you're not a hooker. What are you doing? Yeah.
Although how glorious was his run out at flank in the World Cup, though? How glorious was that? Just how glorious is Skalk Brits? Just Skalk Brits for president?
Skalk Brits can do no wrong. So yeah, I don't think we're going to see too many changes. I think that obviously Stephen Kitsoff walks straight into the B spot. Who replaces him on the bench becomes interesting.
Oxen, bloody chair.
Yeah, for me it has to be Ox. I don't see anybody else.
Maybe.
I think his injuries are the issue. He made a big difference at the weekend when he came on. He sorted out the scrum up because when Carlos Sardi came on, he was having a field day until they then brought Boboka on to try and counter that. But I just think injuries are the biggest issue.
Like if he's not your starting, if he's not in your starting front row at domestic level, he can't be in your starting. He can't be in the national picture.
Look, I think he would be if he could stay fit, but that's the biggest problem. It's the same as Trevor. We know that if Trevor could put together a 1-year season, he could be a phenomenal, one of the world's best tight ends, but he just can't.
Where he doesn't get injured or doesn't miss a plane because of oversleeping.
Yeah, it's always some controversy around good old Trev, but when he does play, he's a fantastic player.
He's also a character, and then you kind of want characters in a lines to him, just for the sake of the drama of it.
Exactly. You need your Faf de Klerks, your Trevor and your Con. That's what I was saying on the stream today. I said, as much as a Lions tour is rugby on the pitch, it's a tour. It's not a World Cup. Now there's a big trophy at the end, but let's be honest, it's about winning the series. It's not like there's this whole you're gonna play this incredibly tight. This is gonna have to happen. A lot of it's a tour. For the Lions, after the party afterwards is unmatched. And even during that, it's a lot of doing the touristy stuff, lots of team money stuff like that. I think it should be a similar thing for South Africa. We've got the players, we've got the squad to win the games. It also needs to be the tour. You've got to get those characters out. You've got to try and have, especially given it's been such a miserable last sort of 12 months, we need some smiles on our faces. Even off the ball, we need something to laugh at, something to watch.
We need Faf de Klerk reading Prince Harry in his boxes.
Yeah, we need those moments. We need Trevor dancing in the change room and stuff like that.
With Terry Crews.
Yeah, see, this is the thing. This is what we need. I back the Trevor punt just for that. In fact, even if he's not fit, let's just put him in the squad. We need a hype man. Interesting times. Well,
one out sort of left field thing. You guys say you haven't been watching much Premiership, but I've been backing this selection since his Lions days. I want to see Rohan Janssen van Rensburg.
Yeah, I know. I'm even going to say that. Everybody starts saying that. Look, I think
Lions bias.
It's not even anymore. He's a Shark now, and is he a Shark or is he now? There was that whole controversy of where he's going.
He plays for both clubs. He's collecting 2 paychecks. He kind of just decides who to play for on the weekend.
The best part about all of that is that he had no say in any of that. That was all his agent. His agent made those deals, and he had no idea. But no, he's a Shark now. He's been playing for the Sharks, and he's been playing well. That's
to be honest. I think he's the missing key to the Sharks down here to being a top side. I think that if you look at that, they let Andre Esterhuizen go. They haven't replaced. They don't have an inside centre. And I think if Rohan Janssen van Rensburg came back, he would complete that Sharks lineup.
Yeah, but I don't want him to go to the Sharks. I want him to go back to the Lions. What I want is I want Rohan back at the Lions. I want the Ackermans, both of them back at the Lions. I want the 2016 Lions squad back. Rowan Comrie's going back under the knife this week. Again, he's making his comeback. He's been injured for years apparently, but he'll be making his. I want 2016, 2017 Lions and them to all be Springboks. That's what I want.
Unfortunately, I think we're going to see sort of 2012, 2013 Lions for the next couple of years because there's just not much there. But thank you very much, chaps, for jumping on. I think we can definitely do this again as you head towards the tour. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about and a lot of small things. And when we start seeing those midweek games and stuff like that, it's going to get quite exciting. So thank you very much. I think you guys both are right here at the moment. So I'll chuck you guys links and stuff in the description so everybody can go and follow you guys and see what these guys have to say. Come a long way from doing a couple of videos on an iPad in the journal building, but always great to catch up and keep well, and we'll chat to you guys soon.
Likewise, thanks for having us on.
Cheers, man. And to everybody else who's come on, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash like on the video as well. We'll have got previews coming for the Rainbow Cup and all that in these couple of days, so make sure you stick around and watch all of that. And then obviously we'll be live for the watch-alongs this weekend. 2 matches. We've got the Coastal Derby, we've got Bulls versus the Stormers and the Sharks versus the Lions. So come and hang out on Saturday for that. And thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen, and I'll chat to you guys soon.